Alright, let's look at the section of the quiz here entitled Percents. So remember, as we talked in class, we always said that percents are numbers out of 100. And the decimal we have is 0.3. Now how would you say that if you were going to say it more as a fraction? Let's look at a different example. If we had 0.7, wouldn't we pronounce this 7/10? Well, that's not 100, is it, on the denominator there? That's a 10. So what would we need to do to make that be a 100? And whatever we do to the denominator, we also have to do to the numerator. On this problem, be sure to do that to 0.3. And remember how you would say it and then convert that to a percent out of 100. Let's look at the second problem. In our second problem, they ask us to solve 9% and convert that into a fraction. Well, that shouldn't be too difficult. Remember that anytime we have a percent, percents are always out of 100. So 50 over 100 would be equal to 50%. Just be super careful on this problem because that's 9%, not 90%. Let's look at the next problem. The third problem gets quite difficult, where we're talking about the junior high basketball team winning 80% of its games, and 80% is equal to 12 games in all. So to figure this out, it's probably best for us to use our 10-box assistant here. So we have our 10 boxes, and we know that this section right here, these first 8 boxes, represents 80%. That's 80% of all the games. We know that that stands for 12 games. So how much would each box be worth? And then what does this set of 2 here on the end represent? So be extra careful as you solve that. I think you'll be able to get it. Let's focus on the next problem. Our next problem is talking about a pair of jeans being 30% off, and that 30% off is equal to $24. So now that we're thinking about that, let's think about our 10 boxes here, and we think about the fact that we're going to pay 7 boxes worth. That's going to be the amount we pay. Our discount is here on the end, and so these 3 sections that represent 10% each represents $24. So once we think about that, we should know that each box represents a certain portion of $24, and all the boxes will also be that same amount. And from that, we should be able to look at the entire set of these 10 boxes right here. All 10 of these should help us to figure out what the total amount is that will go right there. Okay, be careful, but I think you can solve that one. Let's look at the final problem in the set. In our final problem, we're talking about Jane's Pizza Delivery delivering 300 pizzas to a music festival. That seems like a lot of pizzas. However, what we know is that that represents only 50% of all the pizzas that Jane has. So if we think about this amount, we would know that we have our boxes, and that 5 of these boxes represents about, now that's a bad sketch, but it represents about half of all the pizzas that Jane has. So using that information, we know that this is 300 pizzas. How many pizzas would Jane have in all right there? Okay, use that information to solve. That concludes this section.